What is up, humans? Welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today I'm talking about a very specific deck that I'm super excited for moving forward and into Lightning Overdrive, and that is obviously Adignisters. This is a really cool deck. The main reason I'm excited for it is I've always thought this archetype was like kind of cool, but it was never there, and now we're getting support in 5 new cards in Lightning Overdrive that I really believe will push this deck into like a potential contender, seriously, especially with depending on like how the ban list goes and stuff like that. This deck has a ton of utility to cover a ton of different situations, and I really think it has a chance. Not only that, but even in the OCG, it's actually been getting tops as of late. Now, I don't think it's a meta deck for them just yet, but it does seem to be a pretty powerful rogue deck for them at the moment. So hopefully we'll see the same. And so today I'm going to be going through the 5 new cards, pretty in depth, just giving you the descriptions on those and talking about how they could be useful, as well as talking about some of the core cards that Adignisters already have that also kind of like help it make more sense to you on how these cards are going to fit together. So without further ado, let's start off with the new cards. Donmari Adignister is the first one here. This card sucks. Anyway, second card is Dark Infant Adignister, okay? This card is like the #1 card we got out of the new support. This card saves the entire archetype. So he requires any non-link Adignister monster. Very, very cool. On link summon, he can add 1 Ignister AI land from deck to hand. That's the field spell in the archetype. The field spell is an insane extender, by the way. We'll get to that in a minute. Also, when a Cyberus monster with 2300 original attack activates its effect, he can actually move himself to a zone he points to. So he will just shift himself to the left real quick, and that's actually pretty useful as well. So very, very cool card. We'll talk about why getting the field spell is so insane later on, but keep that in mind. Next up, we have When AI First Met You. This is a cool search card for the archetype. It's also different too, because you have to reveal a Cyberus with 2300 attack from your hand or extra deck. Then if you do, you add an Adignister monster with the same attribute. It does lock you into Cyberus for the rest of the turn. Not the biggest deal. Your whole deck is Cyberus, but that's pretty cool. So you have to be revealing the same attribute of the kind of monster you want to add, because they are all different attributes. So that's pretty cool. Other than that, it does have a second effect, but it's not the biggest deal in the world. During the end phase, you're going to take 2300 damage if you didn't special summon the exact monster you revealed to get the search. So you can eat some damage, but it's not the end of the world. If you're getting a search and you're going combo and you're extending through plays, 2300 is fine. So yeah, good search card for the deck. Also, this search card is searchable. Next up, we have You and at AI. This is actually a card I really like as a cool one-up for the deck. So pretty much what it says, this is continuous, by the way. If a Cyberus monster with 2300 original attack is special summoned, you activate one of these effects based off of the kind of attribute the monster has. So if it's an earth or a water, you have the attack of one monster on the field. Keep in mind that doesn't target, so you could cut something like Dragoon in half even after it's negated something. So you could turn a 4000 Dragoon into a 2000 Dragoon, and then you already have a Cyberus with 2300 attacks. So you just walk over Dragoon, no problem. That's actually really nice. Second effect, if a wind or light monster summoned, you negate the effects of one face-up card on the field to the end of the turn. Cool, a negate, that could be disruption if you can quick summon something on your opponent's turn, like that. And the last effect is if a fire or dark is summoned, you special summon 1 Adignister token to your field. It's just a level 1/0/0 token, but that is fodder to link off going forward. Very good anyway. So a lot of cool stuff going on here. I think this card has a ton of utility because it's either going to help you walk over stuff in the battle phase or defend yourself in the battle phase. It's either going to give you disruption / the ability to just turn off stuff on your opponent's board, or it's going to give you the ability to extend your plays by summoning more link fodder, which is, all good all across the board. I like all of those effects. The only thing I would say about this card is I'm not sure about the ruling with this line right here. This line actually says you can only use each effect of the following effects of this card once per turn per attribute. Now, I'm not entirely sure exactly how that, maybe that's like a weird translation thing. I think that means if you summon an earth and a wind in the same turn, you could use both effects. You just can't use like summon an earth, do this effect, then summon a water and do this effect. So it's only one of these effects. You can only do one of these, but you can do each of them once per turn. I think. Don't quote me on that. That's just what I think. But still a really cool utility card nonetheless. Definitely at least a one of in my build. And then we're looking at this card. I don't even want to try and read the name. It's awful. Monsters your opponent controls lose 100 attack for each card you control. Okay, that could stack up. If your Adagnister monster battles, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects to the end of the damage step. Okay. Turn your opponent's stuff off when you're going in the battle phase. That's pretty nice. And the last effect, when your Adagnister monster is destroyed by battle, you can target a Cyberus with 2300 attack in grave, except for the monster destroyed, and summon it back to the field. This card's kind of cool, but I feel like overall this card has 3 meh effects, but none of these effects are like, oh, that's the dope effect. The other ones are bonus. This one's dope. It kind of feels like a card, excuse me, that just has like 3 bonus effects, but no like solidified awesome banger effects. So I don't know, maybe it's a one of, just because the deck is sort of battle phase centric. You do have some cards that gain really powerful effects when you beat stuff in the battle phase, so it does have a lot of bonuses there. So maybe it's a searchable one of, I don't know, but we'll have to see. I mean, at most it's a searchable one of. I don't think it's a bad card. I just think it's 2021 and these effects are all decent, but none of them are like, yes, awesome. So we'll see. But that is it for all the new cards. Pretty cool there. Let's move into some of the cards that already exist that are extremely important for the deck. Adagnister AI land is the first one. Keep in mind, this is extremely searchable now because opening any Adagnister gets you into him, which then gets you into this. This card's insane. It allows you, if you control no monsters in the main monster zone, so the extra monster zone is not included here, summon a Adagnister that's level 4 or lower from the hand. You can only do this effect once per attribute, pretty much, if that makes sense, and it locks you into Cyberse. Not a bad deal because your whole deck is Cyberse anyway. Here's the thing. This card can pretty much activate infinite times. Well, not infinite times. It can pretty much activate until you run out of different attribute Adagnister monsters in your hand. So you just summon a fire one. Cool. Link it off, do some plays, whatever. Oh, I linked up and now I don't have anything in the main monster zone anymore. Let me summon a water one. Let me summon an earth one. Let me summon a light one. As long as they're different attribute, you can do this over and over and over again. As long as you keep clearing out the main monster zones. So very cool. Also, you have monsters that'll trigger off of this because they're when they're normal or special summoned. You have one that searches an Adagnister monster. You have one that searches as an AI spell or trap. So you just get extra pluses there, which is insane. Also, if this card's in grave, you can banish an Adagnister monster from grave to set this card back to the field. That is so good. It means you actually only have to play one of this because you just play one. You search it for free on turn 1. You activate it. It's going to be a pain. Your opponent's going to want to get rid of it. But if they don't banish it, you have ways to get this card back. No problemo. So not an issue whatsoever. It sets itself back to the field super easily. And then you continue to crap on your opponent. Very cool. Next up, we have Idol Reborn. This is actually a really cool Reborn spell. It is a quick play. Reborns any Adagnister and locks you into Cyberse. That's mainly it. There's a bonus effect here, but it's not that important. The main thing here is it's a bomb extender. So I would probably play 3 of this just because it allows you to play through disruption, but also it's searchable. And it can actually be disruption for you because as we saw with our continuous spell, our new one, when a Wind or Light is summoned from a special summon with 2300 attack, you negate the effects of a face-up card. So you could like end with that on the field and a set Idol Reborn, and then use this to reborn a light or a wind to then get an extra negate on an opponent's card, which is good. So I like that. Very cool card to me. Next up, we have Sign Up Mining. I don't need to explain this. You have 1 card combos now in the deck because of the new Link 1. So this gets you that. Plus, if you discard an Adagnister, one of the Adagnister monsters, like on summon, adds you back an Adagnister in grave. So yeah, just completely erases the cost of activating this card, no problem. So very good. Then we move to the extra deck. Okay, Lingaribo. This card's really cool, and then this is honestly a card for like any Cyberse deck, but specifically for Adagnisters. Pretty much he negates a trap, so tributes himself when a trap card is activated and just negates it. cool. Helps you play against trap decks, because combo decks can really struggle versus trap decks. So that's very, very nice. Also, if it's in your grave, you contribute an Ad Ignister monster that was summoned from the extra deck to summon himself back. So by playing like more copies of the Link 1, you could just like summon a second copy of the Link 1, then tribute it to get Link Garibo back. So if you're playing against a trap deck, specifically in this deck, this card is so annoying for your opponent to deal with, because you're trying to just like bring him back every turn and just say, oh, trap negate, oh, trap negate, oh, trap negate. And you're just mitigating all their disruption, which is so, so cool. So love this card specifically in this deck. This card's awesome. Next up, you have a couple of utility cards like Wind Pegasus and Light Dragon. They do opposite things. He's like back row removal, but also punishes your opponent for destroying anything on your field. Because if they destroy something, he can like banish himself from field or grave to then just shuffle a card your opponent controls back into the deck. So punishes them for trying to destroy your stuff like that. Light Dragon's kind of like a mini ding, honestly. He can like destroy monsters by detaching material. And if any monster you control would be destroyed, he detaches material instead. So he has like that protection effect. And if any Cyberus monster inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you get to revive any Link monster from grave. That's any Link. That's so good. Oh my God, that's so good. I mean, that could be an access code. And he won't have his buff. He'll still be 2300. But if you have any other Links in grave, boom, you're getting pops on pops on pops next turn. And you're winning the duel. It's crazy. This card's crazy, for sure. Then we have Dark Templar. This is another card the deck is very much built around. He is a Link 3. He does require monsters with different names, but that's not that hard. If any monster is summoned to a zone he points to, he can revive as many level 4 or lower Ad Ignister monsters from grave as possible to the zones he points to, but their effects are negated, so you won't trigger their summon effects to add cards and stuff like that. But that's okay, because you're getting at least 2 monsters back, which is always like just the best. And if he destroys a monster by battle, you can special summon any Cybers from grave. That's it. Just kill a monster and you get any Cybers back from grave. Again, that could literally just be an access code. Summon an access code back to the field. You won't have his boost, but you can just go pop, pop, pop. Insane. Sorry about the alarm there. This card's busted. And the last card I want to mention here is the Arrival Cyberus Ad Ignister. This thing is essentially towers. He's a Link 6, which is a lot of investment, but a lot of times just making this card means the end of the duel, right? He gains 1,000 attack times the number of Link materials for its summon, so it's going to be at least 3,000. He's unaffected by all other card effects, and once per turn, you can just target and destroy a monster, then special summon an Ad Ignister token to a zone this card points to. So you get a token, your opponent loses a monster, you're already 3,000 to 6,000, and you're probably going to win the duel. It's pretty much just a win condition. You just play one of it for when you can make it. You also can revive it, but he won't have his buff if you revive him, obviously. But he still has his removal and his protection, so still can be an annoying card to deal with in those situations. But that is pretty much everything that I think is like the most relevant for adding Nisters. There may be small cards here or there. The main deck monsters are all pretty good. Some of them extend from hand, some of them search. They're all good in that regard, but I felt like they weren't fully necessary to go through individually that way. But I seriously think this deck has so many tools. It really feels like this support coming in Lightning Overdrive is really just the glue that's going to cement this deck to be a legit deck. I cannot wait to try it out. I think the deck has a ton of utility. I will say this. The one thing I think the deck is lacking is the ability to set up like solid disruption. As much as this deck can remove, work in specific situations really well, extend through plays, it's not ending on disruptions. It really isn't. And so that may be one knock on the deck. We'll have to see how people will try to mitigate that. Maybe it's with just a bunch of hand traps in the deck. Maybe you just play regular traps in the deck that are more powerful. That could work. But I'm really curious to see what kind of route people try to take, knowing that the deck doesn't set up a million disruptions. But the deck has been getting tops in the OCG, so I know it has potential. I'm super excited, seriously. So I'm gonna leave it off here, guys. I want to know from you, what do you think about this deck? Do you really think this deck can get it done coming to the TCG in the next couple months? Maybe if we get a couple ban lists that kind of like lower the status of the top decks right now. then the deck comes out and maybe, you know, there's nobody really dominating the metagame and the floor is kind of open for them. Who knows? But I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. So definitely let me know your thoughts on this deck overall down below, or if there's anything you think I missed, definitely fill me in on that. But yeah, this is just one of those decks I'm super excited to build. You absolutely are getting a deck profile for this. I do not care. And yeah. So that's going to do it for me here, guys. Thank you so much for watching. As always, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more discussion videos like this one, you know, from me in the future. And I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.